Governor Kathy Hochul delivered her 2025 State of the State address this afternoon, which includes a total of 201 proposals. 12 News' Kevin Quinn takes a closer look at the proposals and the governor's initiative to put money back in New Yorkers' pockets.
Our state has to be livable, and the people here have to be afforded to live in it.
The 201 proposals of Governor Kathy Hochul's State of the State cover a wide swath of issues New Yorkers are facing. This year's speech emphasizes the economy and creating more opportunities for families.
That's how we make New York more affordable.
Economic proposals include a tax cut for more than 8 million residents, an inflation refund program for those making under $150,000 or families making under $300,000, and a major increase to the child tax credit.
Because prices went up, our sales tax revenue went up as well. But I believe this. That extra money does not belong in state coffers. It belongs back in your pocket.
In the days leading up to Tuesday's address, the governor's office announced $110 million toward building and renovating child care centers, free school meals for all students in public schools, and another youth center proposal, the Unplug and Play initiative.
We'll build new playgrounds. We'll create hundreds of new opportunities for kids to join music and drama clubs, join youth volunteer organizations, sports teams.
Other proposals look to drive down crime, create jobs, and invest into new homes, clean energy, and small businesses. A wide-ranging plan the governor admits herself is bold.
Yes, it's bold. But as Wayne Gretzky once famously said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And I'll always take the shot.
All proposals must go in front of the state legislature before being signed into law. Kevin Quinn, 12 News.